something happening here. What it is ain't exactly clear. There's a man with a gun over there, telling me I got to beware. I think it's time we stop, children. What's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. There's battle lines being drawn. Nobody's right if everybody's wrong. Young people speaking their minds are getting so much resistance from behind. Time we stop. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down.
Hello there, and welcome back to Day Release with Clive Davis and
Robin. I'm not, because my surname is so easily Googleable that if I say it, then just give away too much information already. I'll probably give away my bank details while I'm talking as well. And next minute, all this will be good for is fraud.
Right. So Robin B.
Yeah.
Yes. And me and Robin B, Mr. French Roll. We talk recent films, maybe not in your theaters now, but it's kind of an excuse for us to a little bit keep up to date, because otherwise we might fall behind, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's so much good quality content out there.
Yes, but we decided to ignore all that.
Yeah. And go straight for the shit.
Yeah. This is kind of my fault. This was my idea that I noticed recently in the past couple of years. There's been like a flood of, I'm guessing, fairly low budget, direct to the web, mainland Chinese kind of science fiction and fantasy and horror and giant creature films.
Is it on? Do they go on the streaming sites of Chinese films? Chinese streaming sites. Sorry.
Yeah. I think.
Okay. I thought they might be direct to TV almost. I wondered about that.
No, I think it's mostly to the web. In particular, I think the four we're talking about today, you can find on Yoku with English subtitles. All of these have English subtitles, and there seems to be an endless amount of them. Like there's loads and loads and loads of them. I guess they must be relatively cheap to produce, and they're all quite short as well. That's the other thing that's notable about them, right? They're just over an hour, or certainly under
hour
an hour and a half. Yeah. Sometimes
like TV movie length sort of thing.
Sometimes just like 65 minutes or something like that, which is good considering that I don't think I've yet to see a good one. So and they're very CGI heavy, right?
Yeah. So just to be clear, so it's Chinese films, and in my country, there's a lot of xenophobia about at the moment, anti-Chinese rhetoric in the news. So we're crossing the Rubicon in that way, and I felt a bit more kind of, felt a bit rebellious watching.
Right.
No, but there are a lot of these films about then.
Yes, there seems to be. They're always coming out. I mean, that's why I'm guessing they must be relatively cheap because they're so CGI
Hmm.
heavy. I'm guessing there's not that much location work. It's probably
Yeah,
mostly
studio work and yeah.
motion capture and green screen and stuff. So you just need a warehouse or something to film in.
Okay, let's do the titles. So we've got Escape from Shark.
Escape
Is the
from Shark.
first one we're going to do,
Yeah.
which is quite self-explanatory. And then the next one.
BUSHINSABA, Hoichi The Earless.
Yeah. All right. And then after that, we are going to talk about Mutation on Mars, or not from Mars, on Mars. And then finally,
Awakened Demon or Hong Hae, I guess.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Right. So
let's get to it.
Yes. I saw these were all released, I think, within the past 6 months. Certainly all 2021. And like I said, it's just the tip of the iceberg. And they were chosen at random. There was no real they kind of, the only good thing I would say is we have a little bit of everything. So we have a shark, so that there's a lot of giant like insect or alligator or those kind of monster movies. And then we've got BUSHINSABA, which is one of a ghost one, which is kind of interesting to talk about because we'll get to it. You're not really allowed to have ghosts in China. And then we've got science fiction, kind of, although it's pretty much just another monster movie, but on Mars. And then the other thing that they make a lot of are these fantasy things inspired by ancient Chinese literature, specifically monkey, of which there seems to be endless amounts of films. So we got one of them. So we're kind of, it's a pretty good
it's a broad spectrum,
and it's
except they all manage to be exactly the same.
Kind of. It's representative of the how many different shades of beige you have.
Escape from Shark.
Escape of Shark.
Escape of Shark, not from.
No, I know what you mean. That would make sense.
Shark which escapes.
Yes. Yes, it is grammatically awkward. You would think it would be escape from shark or let's escape from the shark or get away from that shark, but no, it's escape of shark.
It starts with a guy who's we don't realize at first, but he's having his wedding underwater. He's a world champion diver,
right?
And his that was my favorite part of the film. It was over quickly, but his wife gets eaten by a shark, and he's pretty upset about it.
Actually, to be fair,
for the rest of his life.
This opening scene is not bad. I thought it was quite funny. I laughed out loud when his bride got eaten by a shark. I thought, that's quite. And we should say as well, this film is like 67 minutes long, so it's in and out, right? It's pretty brief.
I mean, it was like a kind of like Instagram moment, wasn't it? Where they're lovingly ruined by a shark,
right?
He had some photographer with him, and they showed the photographer as well, didn't they? To show that it was, and then his wife gets kind of, kind of sandwiched like quite nicely in the
and it's satisfying, I think, because like you said, the whole idea of having this wedding on a yacht and going under, it's like all the main characters are these really annoying new Chinese middle class kind of aspirational lifestyle types, right? So you're quite happy to see them eaten by a shark, right? Because
and it was
a fucking idea having a wedding underwater. It's like such a show-offy thing to do. Like, we had our wedding underwater.
We shared our kiss underwater. We had to hold our breath for 45 seconds and then kiss and then hold our breath for a further. But then she got eaten by a shark. which was disappointing.
With a little hitch in the road, so to speak.
Yeah. But the middle class thing was interesting about that film because it was like the OC or something, or
Right.
or Jersey Shore. Jersey Shore, is that middle class? I can't remember.
Don't know.
No,
I don't know. I have no idea.
Okay, but kind of like like rich kids, yachts and whatnot. And the shark. Well, then there's a everyone's warning about the was it the island or something? I don't know. There's some rumbles under the sea. There's a tsunami, and then they show real tsunami footage, didn't they? I thought there was some real tsunami footage in there mixed in with the other stuff. Like the wave was really fake, and then they had like houses floating from above. And it looked like news footage.
Maybe so. Yeah, it could have been. Yeah, it could have been sensitively used real life. So they're at a Thai resort basically, and our main character, post wife eaten by shark, is kind of on his uppers, drinking his life away, in debt, working at this, and some obnoxious.
He works at the hotel, doesn't he?
Yeah, and obnoxious rich characters turn up, and again, there's this whole aspirational thing. So, but it looks horrible, doesn't it? It looks like everyone's like, enjoying these poolside kind of parties and drinking champagne to really crap, like totally bland dance music, and it's just like. Aspirational if you don't have any imagination, basically. Like the last place you want to go, like if someone invited you there, you'd be like, no, I
need to get out here quick. I mean, there was through all the films, but I guess we're getting to it. But I have to say I watched the films a bit too early for me because my memory's so crap. So, my memory's a bit hazier, but there's always this kind of little kind of, I don't know, moralistic aspects to them,
right?
Wasn't there?
Yeah.
That are a bit kind of plainly spoken out, like, like sometimes they're just spoken by the characters,
right.
And this one, well, it had the real was a real like proper twat, wasn't he?
Yes, he was like the 80s James Spader kind of yuppie character, right?
And a lot of the acting and a lot of the. It was, everything was sort of. I guess they got the idea from Sharknado, maybe, and then it's kind of like cobbled together with dialogue and things that seems of that period, the 80s sort of thing, more than
So just to finish up so what happens is there's an earthquake, a tsunami, the resort floods. And then the characters are stuck inside the complex with a shark swimming about that eats them. Yeah. And I have to say, even though it is largely rubbish, there's that bit at the beginning where the bride is eaten, which made me laugh. And also, even though I knew it was coming, when the rich guy at the end kind of gets that was kind of that was quite funny.
Yeah. And just I mean. Because what you hope with low budget films is that you're going to have, in place of the low budget, quite a lot of freedom of imagination and things.
Right.
But it didn't really work out, did it? In that way, that's what I meant. They just ripped off they took lots from, and they tried to ape. And I wondered, now that you're saying these are kind of like for streaming sites, they tried to ape things that are popular.
Yes.
They're
very.
For their own thing.
They feel very stamped out and templatey, all of them, which is kind of okay. It's not a surprise to me. I kind of expected that, but yeah, like you said, every now and again you think there might be like one or that comes along which stands out or something, right? And
Yeah.
and maybe that is the case, but not among these four particularly.
No.
So yeah, not much to say about.
Any other interesting bits? The shark swimming down the corridors, that was all right.
There's a film called Bait from, I don't know, a decade ago or something, which was a shark in a flooded supermarket, and there's something called Malibu Shark Attack, which is the same exact story. It's a resort gets flooded and then a shark is swimming about indoors. So I think those must be, and like you said, I'm not overly familiar. I think I only saw the first one, but I'm sure the Sharknado films have sharks indoors scenes.
They do, yeah. I think so. Not that I've seen them, but yeah, I've seen parts of them. I think it was on TV actually.
Right.
I watch a bit of this, yeah, but not enough.
Yeah.
Okay. Should we move on?
Yeah, that's it. Escape of Shark is not a recommendation, I don't think.
Not bother.
No, don't bother with it.
All right. So yeah.
So BUSHINSABA, Hoichi The Earless. This is a little longer, but it's still only 78 minutes. It has to be said, most of these films seem twice as long as their running time because they're quite boring. But
the Escape from Shark, to its credit, it went the amount of time that it felt,
Yes,
it moved enough at a pace, but this one, so Escape from Shark obviously does flashbacks. The other thing running through was the over-reliance on flashbacks for nearly all of them, apart from Awakened Human, although that has a flashback, it sort of technically does. Lots of you've ever seen that episode of South Park with the woodshop guy, and he keeps it was the first time South Park used a kind of real life footage, and he's got his footage of his wife, and she's going, Richard, and she's drowning. He goes, anyway, they were like that, those kind of sort of TV movie flashbacks, where it's like, I just can't stop thinking about my wife, and then
flashbacks are difficult, I think, because I know there's this ridiculous rule that flashbacks are supposed to be like lazy or whatever, but I don't have a problem with a flashback. But sometimes what fascinates me in films is when they lose control of, when someone in a flashback has a flashback, and then they can't find their way back logically. I always find that kind of interesting. So you're not quite sure which level of inception you're in. Right? Yeah. And then the other one, the one that really annoys me, is when they assume you're not paying attention and something that just happened 5 minutes ago, they drop in that bit of footage that reminds you of what just happened. And that really annoys. I know it just fucking happened. I didn't. Yeah.
So, did you want to do the plot of this? I don't.
Right. Well, the plot of this one's there's a bit of background to this, which is interesting to me because it's at once it's contextually important, but then ultimately doesn't matter because the film doesn't really have anything to do with anything. But so the original BUSHINSABA was a Korean horror film from 2004. And I guess it must have been a hit. So then in 2012, China made their own BUSHINSABA film, which I've not seen. I haven't seen the Korean, I haven't seen the Chinese 2012, but I think was a totally different story anyway. It just took the title. Or somehow they shared the original. I don't know if the pronunciation is the same, but it's Bishan, I think. And the Korean one was called Bishan as well. Obviously, there's a certain sharing of Chinese characters, but anyway, for whatever reason, because the original Korean one as well. I don't know if it would have ever shown in mainland China, because as we'll discuss at the end of the review of this film, you're not really allowed to have ghosts in mainland China. Like, it all has to be rationally explained, right? So I don't know.
That does explain the ending.
Yes, yeah. So I don't know what the history there is, but for whatever reason, there was another Bunshin-saba, at least the English title Bunshin-saba, and that became a series. There was a part 2 in 2013, a part 3 in 2014. And then there's some other film which is also AKA Bloody House, called Bunshin-saba, Then a Shadow, but I don't know if that's part of the series or not. And then in 2016, there was a crossover, Bunshin-saba versus Sadako, as in Sadako from the Japanese Ring movies, who also turns up here. We'll get to that as well.
Yeah.
And then in 2017, there was a Bunshin-saba versus Sadako 2. And I think this film we're talking about, Bunshin-saba Hoichi The Earless, might be AKA Bunshin-saba versus Sadako 3. And then there was another film called Sadako Wars, Bishan versus Kayako, or Bunshin-saba versus The Grudge. So that would have been the ghost from the Japanese Grudge or Ju-on films.
Okay.
So it's all quite complicated. And then, annoyingly, after you figure all that out, it doesn't matter, because this film has nothing to do with any of that anyway, right?
Oh, wait, the ones you were talking about, were they all Korean then, apart from this one? Or
No. Only the original Bunshin-saba was Korean, and then the other rest Chinese.
Oh, we should watch them all for the next.
You want to do it for Halloween or something?
Oh, we could. It would probably destroy me. Yeah, I mean, this one felt very long. I don't know. It wasn't, was it? But
no, was it? Minutes, yeah. No, 78 minutes. Yeah.
It felt. I
could
have sworn it was 2.5 hours long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, sorry, just to get this out of the way, just to get
plot. Yeah.
Well, before just
go on.
One more title. So this film is called Bunshin-saba Hoichi The Earless, right? So, now, for those of you who are not familiar with the Hoichi The Earless story, Hoichi The Earless is an old Japanese ghost story about like a traveling biwa player who is
what's a biwa?
A biwa is like a stringed instrument.
Oh, is that okay? Yeah, I think I know the one you mean, with the 2 sticks at the end.
Right, like that. Yeah, and he becomes kind of enchanted by ghosts. And a priest discovers that he's enchanted by ghosts. So to repel them, he paints like these Buddhist sutras all over his body, so it makes him invisible to the ghosts. Except he forgets to paint them on his ears. So then the ghost rips his ears off. And the most famous example of this people will be familiar with is there's the Japanese horror anthology film from 1964 called Kwaidan, and there's like a version of this story from there. But that has nothing to do with this film at all. There's no Hoichi character, there's no anyone without any ears or anything.
Yeah. Well, was there not when the Oh, we should just do the plot first anyway. But when the ghost hunter guy, exorcist guy comes, did he not mention something about that? I was searching for. I was looking forward to an earless thing.
Right.
I didn't know the story you just told me, but anything without ears. Oh, go on.
I love that.
Give me some of that. But yeah,
something without ears.
Yeah. Anyway, did you do the plot? I don't think I can.
Okay, well, I'm going to struggle with it, but because it's basically total nonsense, and then you spend the whole time trying to figure out everyone's relations, and then at the end it doesn't matter anyway. So it's quite a frustrating watch in that way. So there's Yeah, so it begins with a woman trying to commit suicide by jumping off a bridge, and then another woman tries to save her. They both end up falling in the river, and then
her cousin or
or they're like
sister.
Yeah, but I think they're like yes, but I don't think they're blood sisters. They're like I think they both grew up in the same orphanage, right? So they refer to each other as sister.
No, I thought that they were sisters, and that they. Oh God! Now I'm trying to.
Well, I think it's confusing.
There was one flashback where they did the parents thing. Oh God! I can't even be bothered.
Right.
Carry on.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't.
Yeah. So then it turns out that the sister who tried to save the other one is a toy designer at a toy company.
Importantly.
Yes. And she also finds a little wooden statuette on the street, which she bleeds on, and then spooky things might start happening. So, oh, what's that? Oh, is someone over there? And then some mean co-workers who threaten her in a really weird,
the most bizarre way. Possibly threaten her. The better we get up for work, I'll tell you.
And so they end up, or one of them ends up dead. So then she realizes, I've released a ghost. So then she calls in a couple of like comic relief ghost hunters, and they tell her that she's released the Thai ghost Kuman Thong or Jaruna.
Yeah.
So I looked this up because I was assuming you've got all these BUSHINSABAs and Sadakos, and so I was thinking, there must be some hit Thai film or something with a Kuman Thong, so that's what they're alluding to. But I couldn't find a hit Kuman Thong film, but the Kuman Thong is a thing. Actually, this is the only thing I got out of this film that was interesting, was the Kuman Thong is, I think, if I remember this correctly, it's you burn an aborted fetus, you roast it, and then it becomes some sort of lucky charm or something. And you can get, if you travel to Thailand, apparently you can buy like these replica, like they look like a couple of little aborted fetuses in like a
made of what?
I don't know, like wood or something, I guess. Or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes. So, but they don't mention that in the film. So apparently Kuman Thong is on the loose, and we find out that I guess the sister is actually dead, and she's the BUSHINSABA.
Yeah.
Whatever the BUSHINSABA is.
No, she's not the BUSHINSABA.
No.
She's also a ghost, and then the BUSHINSABA is there as well. That's what I got from it.
Okay.
I think you would have got a lot more from this film if you would have been paying attention, Clive.
But more importantly, Sadako from the Ring films turns up.
Well, that's her sister, isn't it? But that's how she arrives, isn't it?
Because the sister's the one in red. The sister's the one in red.
Okay.
Sadako's easy to...
BUSHINSABA. Fuck.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
And Sadako's easy to identify because she does the crawling out of the TV thing, right?
Yeah, it was crawling out of the TV. Yeah.
So then and I guess the ghost hunters have summoned Sadako because that's the only thing that can defeat the BUSHINSABA. Oh, sorry, the Kuman Thong. And then they all kind of, there's some kind of ghost versus ghost action, and then I don't understand anymore.
Well, there was a bit where they didn't know how to end it quite clearly, and so they were just fighting, and then I don't know, or maybe for them, the writers, they came up with ideas that they thought they couldn't dismissed. They just wouldn't go away, these great ideas, and so they did them again. So there was a bit where it looked like, oh, okay, maybe you'll let it end there, and then there was some more sort of fighting, and then there was that weird, I can't remember, the flashback where you get to see what happened to her and her sister.
Yes, so I think from the whole film, has the sister actually been dead because she helped rescue her from an orphanage fire and sacrificed herself? Because there's an orphanage fire as well at some point, right? That's something that happened.
Oh yeah, okay. You think? Oh, is that what you think? Okay, I probably was quite bored by that point.
Yes, no, same here. I mean, that's the thing. On the one hand, it's confusing, and on the other hand, I didn't give a shit.
Yeah, it didn't really have enough going on for it.
But anyway, but it turns out, because this is a mainland Chinese production, you're actually... This was the only thing that was kind of interesting to me. So I'd heard this. I haven't seen so many mainland Chinese spooky films, because I know for a fact you're not allowed to have ghosts, right? You're not allowed to have a supernatural explanation for anything, right? So I've always avoided mainland Chinese ghost films because I know they're going to have like some kind of Scooby-Doo ending. I would have got away with it if it weren't for you pesky kids.
Turns out they weren't ghosts. They were just in our imagination.
So if you know that from the beginning, you're kind of slightly disinclined to watch ghost films, right? Because you're like, oh, it's going to have an annoying wrap-up. But what was interesting, so in this case, what happens is at the very, very, very end of the film, spoilers, doesn't matter because it's shit. It just turns out that at the beginning, when she fell in the river, she just kind of blacked out and imagined everything that happened in the film. So it's just like a hallucination. And a voiceover even says, sometimes when the body is passed out, the person will hallucinate.
I wrote it down. So, when someone is close to dying, in the moment between life and death, their brain will instinctively enter subconsciousness. They will create actions and events inside the subconscious and imagine that can't read my own writing. They're three-dimensionally. That's it. That's why it will feel like reality. So it's basically saying, I know you felt I know they feel real, okay?
Right.
They're not real, okay? It's just like a public service announcement at the end.
They have to do that, like legally.
Yeah, I thought that was just because they'd run out of ideas. I had no idea why.
So I'm guessing it's fairly common to have some. But what was interesting about that for me was, in a way, I thought, oh, that's quite good. What I meant, like, so they don't even have to go to because I was worried that all Chinese ghost films, that the rational ending would be kind of tied in to the story. So, like all those old films where it's not actually ghosts in the lighthouse, it's actually Nazis moving weapons or something like that and scaring the locals. I thought it would always be tied up in a story. But what I realized watching this is, you can actually make a totally supernatural film as long as at the end you just say, oh, it was someone just hallucinating.
Yeah, sort of everyone can walk out of the cinema or whatever.
Yeah, and just ignore that last bit. Like, I bet they don't. I bet people even are rising from their seats and leaving as that explanation's being, so they can just enjoy a ghost film. So now I'm actually, even though this was shit, I'm actually more open to watching mainland Chinese ghost films now, because they do make ghost films. They just add that coda at the end, right? So
do you think they all do that, or this is the only one you've seen so far?
I think this might be the only, because like I said, I've always avoided the mainland.
I'm curious. I would be curious to see if they that was the most standout thing in a way. There was lots of it just was very jarring to me. Why did you just I didn't know what you would the thing you just said about them not showing ghost films.
Well, if you're serious, we can watch the entire series, and then you can see a lot more examples.
But we could watch another one. I don't know. But Oh yeah, this one. Yeah, it was the other thing was it was full of and there was a thing on. I don't want to go off on too much of a tangent, but there was a thing on Netflix which somehow I watched, and I think it was Chinese, and it had and it was came recommended somehow anyway, but it had this kind of it was supposed to be a comedy, and it was like but it was like every single line in the dialogue was like a public service announcement, like a moral thing, like, one doesn't hold one's cup in that way without without implying menace or something. Like, it's really like weird Victorian, and this film had quite a few bits like that in it where it's sort of like kind of strangely straightforward moral like announcements in the dialogue. That was kind of strange. Not that I wrote any of them down, but yeah.
So another dud, really, this one, wasn't it? And if you're like Robin and you automatically gravitate to anything with someone without ears, apparently, you're going to be sorely disappointed. I would only say that main star Raina Wang looks pretty good in her cute little office outfit. That's the only thing I got out of this, really.
Yeah. There was a lot of crawling about, a lot of fights. If you like fights, wire work, I think it was a bit. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, let's not try too hard to find something good to say.
No.
Like I said, the only thing that I found slightly interesting about, not as a film, but just as a nerd, is it was my first. I knew there was a whole bunch of films where there was this crossover, Bunshin-Saba, Sadako, Kayako, slit mouth woman, like kind of like the King Kong versus Godzilla of Asian ghost films, right? So it was just, I was slightly interested to see an example of one of those films, but it wasn't very good. But just I was aware that there was a whole bunch of films. I don't think I'd seen one before. So
well, I mean, so it was the translation. Who was that? Do you know? Do you get to know who? Can you find out who did that? Or because it seemed like they might have also done the Awakened Demon one, because they were quite potty mouthed at times in the not that this isn't a disapproval. They were quite potty, but I don't know. I was curious about that a little bit, like the translation, and whether it would have been quite so. There was a bit where he says, "Your shitty art skills," and
I was wondering about that as well, because, so for instance, the original title for this film, Bishang Gui Tang, which I'm not sure what it means. The only bit I know is the Bishan is the Bunshin-Saba, but I don't know if Gui Tan is actually anything to do with Hoichi The Earless. So did they just choose an English title that they thought people would like? Oh, because even if you factor in that, it's not exactly a contempt. Not everyone's talking about Hoichi The Earless nowadays. It's not like something that's going to drag the crowds in, right? So I wonder where that English title came from. Who decided to call this Bunshin-Saba Hoichi The Earless? It's a grammatically awkward title anyway, but
I thought it was the doll. I thought it was a little doll, and it didn't have any ears. It had hair over it. I think I wanted it to. I thought it was that. So maybe I hallucinated that.
Well, Robin, that's interesting you say that, because that can happen when someone's close to death, and it will seem three-dimensional to you.
Yeah, good finish. Yeah, that's what it was like. It was like gaslighting at the end. No. You thought you saw a ghost.
Yeah,
you did.
Yeah. No. We're not sending troops into Taiwan. You imagine that? Anyway, yes, we don't want to go down that route, though. We'll. Right. So, shall we move on to the science fiction film?
Yeah. Okay. Mutation from Mars.
On Mars. You
Oh,
are having,
on Mars.
yes.
I've got my on my from the wrong way around. Yeah, am I right in thinking it says on the thing, because obviously those bits weren't translated, but it said it said 2042.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the year, is it? Okay, good luck with that.
Yeah, 2042, and then the Chinese characters for fire and planet. So yeah, Mars, I guess, the fire planet. Because, like you said, it was translated, so it was numbers 2042, and then it just had or fire star or something. My reading skills.
That film again started with yet more flashbacks.
Yes, almost immediately. In fact, before you even know.
I can't remember what the flashback was.
I think it was when it was weird.
When they first trying
to escape. No, when they first trying to escape.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's it. It's a really incongruous.
Yeah,
flashback.
it's totally unnecessary.
It didn't make any sense. So this seems like a, I mean, I don't want to. I'm going to get properly sound xenophobic, but I'm not. It's a government mandated flashback percentage.
Yeah, it was weird. It was almost as if someone had been moving things around in Adobe while editing and forgot to cut that bit off.
A tiny little slither.
Yeah.
Just didn't see it, didn't zoom in. Okay, so so it starts off on Mars, and they all have to leave in an emergency. That's right, isn't it?
Yes.
And there's a chameleon. There's an asteroid coming towards Mars, and there's
a bunch of them. There's like an asteroid shower, right?
Okay, yeah. And the guy's working on a chameleon hybrid, and then they run into the spaceship, and they start trying to leave, and suddenly they get eaten by like a whale with a Mohican.
Yeah, I didn't understand that. So, because the title was Mutation on Mars, and then when the chameleon escapes, that's going to mutate. So at first, when there's basically a storm hits, isn't it? And they have to leave, and then there's a giant floating whale monster thing. So at first I assumed, did the chameleon turn into that giant whale thing? But that's not the case. But just because of the mutation thing, I thought, that happened faster than I expected, and that looked more like a whale than a chameleon. But whatever. But the chameleon turns up later. So that whale, I have no idea what the fuck that whale has to do.
Well, they explained it, but
but it was gibberish.
Didn't work out. It was gibberish because it didn't make sense within the plot, did it?
Oh,
because he had created that whale.
Right. Somehow.
But he was getting all excited.
A whale to Mars with him.
Exactly. I can't remember what it was from, but it's like he was getting all excited about the chameleon when he made this massive whale. It's like, my breakthrough, dude, you make a sky whale.
Yeah.
A
flying whale.
Yeah. It's like, Van Gogh or Picasso got really excited about, look, I don't know, drew a kind of picture on my shoe or whatever. A penis.
Yeah, like a kid's picture of this is my house with the chimney.
Yeah.
Come here.
Look at my shoe. It's got a knob on it.
It was a slightly, you'd think if you've created a giant flying whale, then you're on to bigger and better things, right?
Yeah, that's the thing you brag about, I'd say.
Yeah.
Anyway, so but that doesn't really explain the plot, which is that yeah. So I thought, oh, this is going to be good. When that happened, the giant whale, I thought,
More fool you.
Yeah, it doesn't have any ears as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So they could have called it Mutation on Mars, Hoichi the Earless whale.
Yeah. Oh man, that'd be good. And then, oh yeah, then this ship, and I thought that that was all right. The
So
science.
The whale prevents them from escaping, right? So they crash land back on Mars.
Thank you. Important details.
Right.
And then there's they manage to get back to the base, or one of them does, and calls for distress. And then they have that kind of situation with the control center, and that was a bit kind of propaganda-y, like in terms of the new space race that's going on now. With
and of course there's another mission, right, to Europa going on, the Chinese mission, and of course they immediately come to the aid of this, because it's like the Mars mission seems to be like some kind of international.
It's an international one, but it's important that they say, like, and I quite like that. Like, I was like, yeah, fuck you, America. Like, they're like, nobody else can, everyone else is much too fucking far away. Only your guys can do it. And good for you. And then they, because I mean, every American film is like that, isn't it?
Yeah. That's the thing.
We called Beijing, and we called,
Right. No, I'm glad you mentioned that as well, because that's something I know these films are propaganda, but I don't necessarily, that doesn't bother me any more than when it's American propaganda. Right?
No, it's the same thing. Yeah, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
I don't know who. I've never met anyone. Have you ever met anyone whose heart swells with pride when? I mean, they do that in English films, don't they? And it's just, I don't know whether it does work on people. It definitely does. How can it work if you're American? If that's all, you get a diet of that constantly, surely you're desensitized. But in, English films, I guess there's so few of them, that,
I guess.
Your heart swelling of pride when, the Beatles are mentioned or whatever in that recent film.
I mean, I suppose an example would be against my otherwise, because when it's done well, you're being manipulated emotionally,
exactly.
But you go with it anyway. I have to admit, I did get a slight lump in my throat at the end of Dunkirk, for example.
Okay, yeah. I never watched that, but I did watch, which is going to make me sound much lamer.
You watched the Chinese remake Dunkirk, Hoichi The Earless.
Yeah, I did. I'm watching that.
Where some Chinese troops suddenly turned up and rescued all the...
Yeah.
It was a nearby ship. You're the only one!
Yeah, and a guy gets his mouth blown off. And he's so close to getting his ears blown off. But it didn't happen. I watched Dad's Army with my son.
The remake?
The remake one, yeah. And I kind of got a bit like, a bit emotional to that, really. But it was in the cinema. I couldn't help myself.
Is that good?
I don't, probably not. I don't really remember. But it does all the things that I think if I worked with my son and it had some funny bits and it had some people I like. In it, but
isn't Toby Jones in it?
Yeah, and Lynn from Alan Partridge. She's another good turn. Okay. We spoke about her last month.
We did.
Anyway, but it just does all the things that are really manipulative about British films. Loads of kind of deliberately heart-turning, moments or whatever. Yeah. Anyway,
plenty of bunting.
Plenty of bunting. Lots of tea. I don't know. So we move on with the plot anyway. Where were we?
Right.
whale with a mohawk tries to gobble the spaceship, chomps it a little bit, lands, crash down. China comes to rescue. What then? You do.
Well, and then of course to pile on there's also the father-son dynamic, because his father, who looks way too old to be in space, but he's part of and so his son comes to rescue him, and then of course it's all the fault of the non-Chinese white guy with mad eyes, right? He's the guy who was responsible for splicing this chameleon with something else. So then there's a chameleon running around killing people.
No, before that he spliced something else and it made a whale. He did say that. I'm pretty sure he said it.
Right. Again, what happened? The one thing that connects all these films for me is towards the end, I'm losing the will to live. Don't really care, to be honest. But yes, you're probably quite right about that. The only thing I would say about this one was, I mean, they all have this kind of slightly bog standard, like CGI has come a long way now. So like bog standard CGI is of a certain standard.
Yeah, fairly good, yeah.
But I would say with this film, it was because so obviously they shot somewhere. They shot, I'm guessing, the Gobi Desert or something like that. So it was nice to see the location. But then when they combined it with, I think maybe that spaceship might have been, I couldn't work out if it was a prop, or like a full-size prop or CGI, but there was obviously some CGI, and it was all quite seamlessly done, I thought. Like the whale was very CGI monstery, what you'd expect. But in the other non-monster stuff, I thought it was quite well integrated, and the costumes and stuff like that and everything. I thought it looked pretty good, right? Better than some of the other films in terms of
I just wanted to say, actually, the thing about that when they say it will take at least 4 months for the USA to and Europe to get to Mars, and then the commander Liu from the Chinese commander, like, we need to think about it, which I thought was like a good little dig at, like, we'll think about it.
Right.
We'll see whether we want to.
We're in the driving seat now.
Yeah. But I don't know. The other thing I liked was, just whale with a mohawk, and you wouldn't get that in a kind of Western film. You might get that. It was more, that at least turned into that at least had the idiosyncratic element that I want.
Yes. No, I think you're quite right. I think that's what you're looking for when you're watching these kind of films. Like, in a way, they're not any better than all those giant creature features that Sci-Fi Channel puts out, right? But at least because it's coming from a different place and a different culture, you hope for a little bit of like strangeness or something that's alien. And I agree with you. A giant whale with a mohawk was like, okay, that's an interesting choice. Like, that probably development. It probably wouldn't have been an American film, because it's a little.
It looks a bit too kind of the choice of the hairs. Okay, but I thought I was going to like it, actually, because I thought, okay, there's that, and then there's been so many films, really serious films about going to Mars, or sci-fi films, and because I'm a sci-fi fan, and I really can't stand sci-fi films that kind of take themselves really seriously, and and nothing much happens. It was it was a Matt Damon one. This seemed to kind of take after the Matt Damon one in a way, with
there was a bit of that in there, I think. This was more of a throwback to like we said, it's a monster movie in space. It's more like with those old, like, weird tale stories where it's set in space, but it's like a monster or an ancient evil, or it wasn't hard SF then.
No.
Sorry, I was just letting the cat out on the balcony. Yeah,
Oh yeah, that was that was a bit. There was some, yeah, like the bit where I can't remember his name, but the captain almost gets killed because Feng Ten gets distracted by a Polaroid picture. But there were moments like that which were again slightly idiosyncratic because of the the writing or whatever. Where it's just it's in a way that kind of made it more interesting because it follows the standard procedures of Hollywood, blockbuster, or the current Hollywood blockbuster, that the kind of survival on Mars thing, but then comes up with odd devices that seem like they were kind of pulled out of a hat, like
right.
well, how can we make him, so they're looking for that chameleon monster, and it's just eaten someone or something like that. It's eaten the creator of it or something like that. They know it's really dangerous, and they go looking for it, and then he's like, oh, look, a Polaroid, and keep your eyes open. So, oh, look at that. Oh no, sorry. And and then next minute the captain is being mauled or something.
Right, like you said, you look for the joy in sometimes low budget films is they make up for that with something a bit different. But there's precious little of it in these films, unfortunately.
And most of it follows that. It's like when if you get a film that's written by somebody who wants to make a blockbuster film but is quite thick, like
right.
They're usually quite good because they can't not, but they might have a really kind of daft way of thinking, and that was a little bit like why would someone get distracted, like, or maybe he sees like a Polaroid picture.
right in that way it is a strangely cobbled together film. Like, you do have to wonder if there was a bunch of, there are actually a couple of screenwriters credited, if like one person came up with that stuff and someone else came up with the giant floating whale stuff.
It does have the kind of the feel of something that came up through meetings, like, and that maybe they were doing yes and like
we love the whale, but we want another, and so they through a process of elimination or something, they come up with because the some of the stuff with the chameleons a bit Jurassic Parky in the kitchen with the
we need to say anything more about the plot of it? There's nothing.
No.
Okay.
I think we should put it in our rear view.
The guy gets together with his dad. And then his dad does the ultimate sacrifice.
Noble sacrifice.
Noble sacrifice. But that aspect of it, with things, but there weren't that many of those.
No. I can't remember. Was there? It's been ages since I saw it. But isn't there is the reuniting with your father on a distant planet, you think? Was there something like that in Armageddon? Was like Ben Affleck's dad one of the people who needed rescuing, or I can't remember. I'm sure there was
Armageddon is the drilling the asteroid one, is it?
Yeah. Is there something about?
There were two of those, Deep Impact and Armageddon, and I get them both mixed up now.
Yeah.
I don't know.
The only way I know to tell the difference is because we went to see Deep Impact in the theatre, I remember, together.
Did we?
Yeah.
That was Bruce Willis, wasn't it?
No, that Armageddon was Bruce Willis.
Oh, right, okay. You see, the thing is, so you get, in Hollywood films, you get all that stuff done better with a higher budget, but you're still being shoveled the same shit. So you still kind of feel the same.
And it's 2 hours longer or whatever.
Some of the translations again I wrote down, like I feel my viscera gushing out of my mouth, things like that. They were kind of some of the translation.
Very literal.
Yeah. Anyways, all right. That's the end of that. Don't go watch it.
Yeah, no, that was rubbish as well. Really. I mean, we're kind of struggling to find things to say, really, aren't we?
Yeah. Like I say, we've, I'm sure we will watch low budget films at some point that will have more interesting things about them. But
yes, you carry on. I just have to go and get something. You introduce the next film. I can hear you.
Okay. So, hi. The next one is Awakened Demon, which is basically Clive will be better at this, but it is based on the monkey stories, and is specifically the Red Boy demon.
Right. Well, so I was trying to figure this out, right? So yeah, so the main character, as played by Eddie Geng, is Red Boy or Hong Haye, who was the son of Princess Iron Fan and the Bull Demon King in Monkey. Yeah, for those who don't know, Monkey.
Tales from the West.
Yeah. Journey to the West. Yeah, 16th century novel. I mean, adapted countless times to the screen, right? In Hong Kong, Taiwan, and Japan as well. Actually, lots of. There was a hit TV series that was big in the UK, actually, called Monkey, and very big in Australia as well. With the.
Are you talking about the 80s one?
Yes.
Or are you talking about the recent one?
No, the 70s one, which was with the monkey.
70s. I grew up on that. That was my favorite show when I was
Good show. Yeah, it is a good show. Still holds up, and great theme tune, of course, which people will know.
Of course, so probably put the end there.
And born from an egg on a mountain top. Funkiest monkey that ever. Great. Anyway, so
I like the end, the outro tune as well. Is that the outro tune? A long time ago,
right?
Men were wise. Anyway,
the karaoke there.
Yeah.
So endless versions of Monkey, and I think specifically for a domestic audience, it's so familiar that you don't have to really put it in context. So this film kind of, it's almost like you've started watching a film halfway through or something, isn't it?
Yeah. You can start from any episode, and Chinese audience at least will know.
But I was trying to figure this out. So so Red Demon, but this story is, I'm thinking this story might actually not be like it's connected to Monkey or Journey to the West, but I don't think it's actually a version of a story from Monkey, right? So so the character of Red Boy lives on this, they call it fire cloud cave in this, but basically he's like in charge of he controls the samadhi fire or something, right? Fire breathing, and he does in Monkey. It's been a while since I read Monkey, and so much happens in it that it's kind of in you.
I don't remember the Red Boy turning up in it, but it might be a different version. Or,
right, yes. And I think that Arthur Whalen translation as well is doesn't translate the whole thing, right? There's like longer translations. But basically he does turn up, and he is kind of a rival to Monkey in some ways or whatever. They have a to-do about something. But in this film, it begins with Monkey versus Red Boy, and then the Bodhisattva interrupts, and she makes it so Red Boy's hands get handcuffed, right? Whenever he thinks about doing violence or something, he can't. And again, looking at the Wikipedia page and stuff like that, I think this is maybe where the Red Boy story actually finishes in Monkey.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah.
So I think the majority of the story of this film, where he tries to kind of get back into heaven and become one of the immortals again, and there's like another dragon prince guy who he has to contend with, and he's not welcome back in heaven, and yada yada yada, all that stuff. I think that might be an original story. I think that might be like speculative. What happened next to Red Boy, kind of thing.
Because they go over the plot that's from the book, or from a version of the book, not in my one, but yeah, of the plot that I read online.
Yeah.
That was more extended. That's
like the beginning movement of the film.
His Samadhi fire is concentrated liquid fire, and you can't put it. All that the monkey tries to order some rain clouds, and that happens in the beginning, but all that does is intensify the fire. I mean, Monkey is so intense as a book. I read it to my son, and it's so good and so intense, but like a lot of kind of older folk stories, just one little bit will have enough for a story, a full novel for a child.
Yeah, there'll be like a throwaway line like and then there was a war in heaven for 500 years or something. Like, what? What?
Then he did. They're all throwaway lines though. Aren't they? They're kind of all throwaway lines. They're all really and this happened, and
like we said, if you're dealing with a condensed version like the Arthur Whalen as well, there's a chance that there is a bit more about. I haven't read it yet. I do have the first. Someone did translate like the full translation of Journey to the West. I have the first volume of it, but I haven't read it yet. But just that first volume is like twice the size of the Arthur Whalen one, right? Yeah. So so there's a lot in there. But no, I agree with that. I think the Arthur Whalen is a brilliant translation. I mean, it's a really good kind of all the important bits, right?
The characterization is very good, and of Monkey and stuff like that. Yeah,
it's a fun read. It's a fun read. I think sometimes that we forget about. Another good example is like the Arabian Nights thing. Like there's all the kind of the best bits, and then someone comes out. I've been trying to read the 3-volume entire translation, and sometimes they're like, "Oh God, the good old days of just the condensed version, which was much more kind of fun and easy to follow, and it's very easy to get lost in the full translations." Right?
Yeah, as a kind of an adult who wants to kind of be more curious, you find yourself boring yourself silly.
Yeah, or just really out of your depth.
Inner child had the much better idea where you're, where you go straight for the fun stuff,
right?
And enjoy it a lot of the time. Anyways,
so there's a lot of So I mean, you can go more into the plot if you want, but I
that's enough really.
Hard going.
Well, there's a competition.
Yes, a trial.
And before the competition, one of the I don't know what he is, a god or he's done a divination type thing with his Stargate thing, and has discovered that there's a baddie coming, or has escaped or something. The bad demon was something else, some other demon from a monkey story, I thought, but I didn't really pay much attention to it.
I think I was fast asleep by this point.
That was the beginning. I don't blame you, but some of the stuff was good in this film. There was some stuff I enjoyed, but compared to all the rest. But then what happens? They have this competition, and then the competition goes on a bit, and then, they fight a fair bit, and
there's
then they
comic
discover
relief as well, which is not really. There's a few wah, 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 moments, right? And you're just like, oh, Lord.
I can't remember them.
Yeah. And there's a little bit of romance, isn't there? There's like a princessy character.
There is a bit. There's a bit of I mean, the red boy, he's pretty good looking, and the woman that he fancies is pretty good looking. So
yeah, they're all young, and I'm sure they're probably all members of some bands as well, right? They're probably I don't know. I mean, yeah.
All right. Yeah, what did you like? See, I wrote a lot of notes because I didn't know whether I presumed you were going to find them all shit, but I didn't know whether we would watch them. And I because we don't talk about these films before we meet up. So I was worried that you were going to come back and go, wasn't it brilliant? And tell me all of these fascinating facts, which would have been fine, completely changed my opinion of the film. Oh yeah, actually, you're right. No, that's brilliant. Yeah, that's no. So I wrote lots of notes, but they're almost indecipherable anyway. In fact, all I've got is it opens with a line. Yeah, again, that's just translation, though, isn't it? Who is the bodacious one?
Yeah, bodacious was in this a few times.
Yeah, that's strange.
Yeah, I'm guessing their use of bodacious, though, is actually probably literally correct. It's just we don't.
Yeah.
Everyone. The only time you hear bodacious now is in that surfer way of saying it, like bodacious. No one actually uses it properly.
So what does bodacious? Does that mean braggart sort of thing?
Like brazenly or something like that.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
That is tubular. What is?
So we should mention as well, as we mentioned off air, you brought this up to me. So the same year as this, there was also another film called Journey to the West, Red Boy, which is another one of these straight to the web CGI fests of.
There's two. I think there's two. I watched two trailers and they were almost exactly the same, but completely different CGI.
So I'm guessing
representation of monkey.
I'm guessing that at least the Journey to the West Red Boy that's the traditional part of the Red Boy story that we know, right?
Yeah, I think that involved that beginning bit that spread out.
I'm wondering if this might actually even be a sequel.
Sequel could be.
Yeah,
but they didn't just. I mean, the trailers that I watched, monkey looked quite a lot more vicious and sharper teeth and things. The monkey in this one looked
nice and friendly. And
I liked the monkey in this. Yeah, I would want to be his friend. I've always wanted to be Monkey's friend anyway.
Right.
But I really liked the monkey in this. He looked quite a bit like how I picture him.
Yes. Shame he's barely in it, really, because after that opening.
Yeah.
But it's kind of amazing actually how many adaptations of Monkey there are. Like they never tire of Monkey, right?
Yeah. Is there an equivalent story in Britain, in England, or
that we keep doing again and again and again to this level?
It probably is. It just escaped my mind.
Two men thinking.
Yeah.
So this was I mean, you seems I think you seem to have enjoyed this one slightly more than I did. I found it pretty boring and tough going, to be honest with you. But
yeah, I think it was. I found it pretty boring.
Okay. So, 2 thumbs up from us.
And slightly tough going.
Right. A rave review from Robin there.
But it had the dragon in it, so it was fun. But I don't know.
Oh yeah, there was a giant dragon at the end. We didn't mention that.
Dragon.
Yep.
Yeah. So I can't think of anything else to say about it.
No, I was just thinking now in terms of, so on top of these 4, I think I've seen a handful of other. I saw like a giant spider one called Abyssal Spider. I saw Mega Crocodile and another science fiction-y one about time, like a Stargate kind of. So I think I've probably seen, I don't know, 10 or something of these cheapy new straight to the web Chinese things out, and I don't think I've seen one that's any good or shows any promise or something. But somehow I still have, I'm not like, oh great, but my appetite hasn't quite been satiated yet. I think I will continue to give them a go. I was wondering where you stand. Are you just like, no?
Well, I think it would be it would depend on the trailer and the plot line. I think those would be the the insight into them I would need before. But yeah,
or if there's any hot women in them.
Well, there's
something as well.
There's got to be something. It would. Yeah. Yeah. How did you watch Form? So because they've all got that similar thing though, which is the problem. Because Bollywood films have got a thing about them, and and then Japanese films have got a thing about them, and they're very good. And generally speaking, you'll get some sort of Bollywood. You'll get you're going to get really great action sequences, and kind of bizarre action sequences. Japanese films, you're going to get really just a lot of great ideas, and Korean films, not that I've seen that many, but the ones I've seen, all
right,
and all of them are marked by their idiosyncratic kind of way of doing things,
right?
And there just doesn't seem to be that. I still have this feeling that there must be something that will mark these films out as being sort of quintessentially Chinese,
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think we should be careful as well. We should be careful as well not to necessarily make this particular type of film.
Of course, yeah, they're only low budget. Yeah, of course.
I mean, I would imagine even within China, maybe no one's watching them. They're like, those things are shit, right? Yeah. Just those two morons on that YouTube video watch them. So I'm not sure if they're necessarily supposed to be representative. It was a kind of trend that I had noticed recently, and I just wanted to take a dip into it and just take a sample.
Yeah, but the thing, the only place I was going with that was more that just they all low budget films, even from different countries, tend to go. British low budget will explore different territory.
Right.
I don't know about Japanese but well, I've seen a fair few Japanese films, and they will explore different territory. Whereas these are all they're all doing mashups. They're all doing but like you say, they're kind of made for TV type things. But they're all doing so the one you just said, what did you just say? The Abyss
Spider, yeah.
So that's the Abyss and Cocoon then, or
it was just a giant spider.
and
it didn't even come from an abyss. I think again that was a I think that was just a weird translation, because I suppose the one thing we did miss a trick on, if we wanted to do an episode, I mean, we could do another one if we had the stamina. Like we said, we had a monkey one, and we had a ghost one, and we had a giant creature one, and we had an SF one. The other one that they're churning out by the dozen from mainland China recently, and doing both big budget and low budget versions of them. Are you familiar with the Candle in the Tomb series?
No.
So this is I think this started life as an online novel or series of novels, I think, and they're basically like Indiana Jones, Tomb Raider type stories about archaeologists, encountering monsters underground while looking for treasures and stuff like that. And that series of novels has just exploded, and there's at least 6 films and 3 TV series, and all based, and then there's rip-offs and copies. So that's one thing we didn't have. We didn't include a Tomb Raidery.
These are all Chinese, are they?
Yeah. There's loads of them. There's loads. So that's the one thing we didn't tap into. Yeah.
Hopefully we could do another one.
Yeah, can't wait. I've seen a few of them as well, and again,
we could do 5 of those.
It's the promise of those, though, because I like the idea of that, right? I like the idea of going into underground tombs searching for treasure and a giant monster. I like all that, but they're all they all have this slick, templatey, bland, and all the cast members seem to be cast because they're all impossibly good looking rather than having any charisma or particular acting chops, or so it's
some of the actors were quite good. I think the writing was generally just just templatey, and also just when they ran out of ideas, they just did more. There was no editing, there was no that's low budget, but so sometimes low budget you get a lot of that in low budget, don't you? But what was the film we watched with the 10-minute establishing shot of the car coming down?
Edge of Hell.
Yeah. You get padding. Kind of things like
padding, right?
Yeah, padding and things like that. And that can be amusing, but with all these films, every time it edged towards the good stuff, it somehow really it was all the trying to make it good by doing the narrative conventions, like he has to have a backstory, or she has to have a
they're excessive
every
as well,
character
right?
had to have a backstory, and the backstories just shit, weren't they?
I think because the CGI has become cheap and easy to produce and template as well, you get a lot of excess, right? So it's like, rather than have one battle, like it's like endless just goes on and on and on and on, and it's like not anchored to anything, right? It's just endless kind of CGI spectacle, and it doesn't mean anything anymore. So that's another way padding has become less, like you were talking about rock and roll. So there's a certain charm to that kind of padding because it's so chintzy, and but at least it has like a stamp of personality on it, right? Like, this is fucking boring, but it's boring in a really specific way to this film, so it has a kind of a charm to it, a personality, right?
Whereas the edge of hell
padding is like, it's already been stamped by like Microsoft or something, so it all looks the same, right? It doesn't have a personality.
I mean, the Edge of Hell one was like a joke that's just becomes really funny because you keep doing.
Yeah.
Um,
Exactly.
There's a little sketch that I don't know if you know who Kristen Schaal is.
No.
Okay, and what's his name?
Does he have ears?
Kristen Schaal is a woman.
Does he have ears?
She does have ears.
Oh,
yeah.
Because you know me, Robin.
Actually, it's
if
rubbish.
there's someone without ears, I'm there.
Yeah, but she did this sketch with I forgot his name, but you probably know who he is. Anyway, where they just sang this song. Kristen Schaal is a horse. Look at her dance now. Right. Like that, and they just did that on stage for as long as they could possibly do it, until it sort of became funny, and it does kind of become funny. That's brilliant.
You sold that one.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, no, it's the way. But yeah, I don't know where I'm going with that.
Yeah.
Just,
anyway, we can.
Oh, there's one last thing. That was
right.
it. That was it. Just the only bit that was like that was funny-ish was just, but it ended up not really being. But was the kind of ring bit where she's coming out of the TV and then she was kind of just doing the ring thing for ages, wasn't she? Just.
Are you talking about BUSHINSABA now?
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yes, I switched from Kristen Schaal and the horse thing,
right,
to the ring thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. She crawls around for ages. Wasn't that good? That bit.
Anyway,
yeah.
All these are rubbish.
Yeah, they're all
pretty much.
Until next time.
Yes. Bye.
Bye.